Dear guests, may I now please request Secretary General ICAO to present global perspective. He will highlight on ICAO priority, focus area, and the transformational objective. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Juan Carlos Salager.
Distinguished Chairman of the Bangladesh Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. President of the Council, Salvatore Ciacchitano, the Regional Director of the APAC Office and Directors of the Air Navigation Bureau, of the Capacity Development and Implementation Bureau, of the Air Transport Bureau, Director Generals of Civil Aviation of the Asia-Pacific region, delegates from states, observer states, members of the Council, colleagues all from ICAO. Good morning to all. As a Secretary General of ICAO, I would like first to join the President of the ICAO Council in wholeheartedly congratulating the government of Bangladesh, and more specifically, the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Tourism and the Directorate General of Civil Aviation of Bangladesh for hosting this 58th Conference of Directors Generals of Civil Aviation of the Asia-Pacific region here in the dynamic and beautiful city of Dhaka. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to all delegates that are present here. I am very grateful for this significant platform and the opportunity it provides for me to share ICAO's vision and priorities with you and the ways that we are transforming ourselves to better serve you and the development aspirations of our sector. And the fact is that only a few years ago, I was responsible for civil aviation in my own country, and I was facing many of the challenges that you are facing today, even those that have confronted the recovery from the pandemic. That was part of the struggle that I lived before joining ICAO. And that's why I would like to start today with ICAO's business plan, which reflects the strategic direction. There is a presentation, I think, that is going to be shared. The business plan reflects the strategic direction on global priorities for international civil aviation in accordance with the resolutions and the decisions that were taken by the 41st session of the ICAO Assembly. The plan and all the initiatives that contains will follow a results-based management approach. This methodology will allow ICAO to better meet its mandate to states through a comprehensive results framework. Next slide, please. At the 41st Assembly, clear messages were received from states and aviation stakeholders emphasizing what ICAO needs to focus on. The ICAO Council, next slide please, consequently agreed that the Secretariat will conduct an organization-wide prioritization exercise. The Secretariat then identified 7 priority focus areas which were subsequently endorsed by the Council. Next. These priority focus areas allow the organization to work more efficiently as one ICAO in both developing and supporting implementation of standards and recommended practices, plans, and other guidance material. Next. The first priority focus area is the long-term global aspirational goal for international aviation of net zero carbon emissions by 2050, or LTAC. This LTAC agreement is historic as it demonstrates the sector's strong commitment to support the temperature goal of the Paris Agreement. It is a clear signal that aviation is engaging on a trajectory towards carbon neutrality. Support for the LTAC also comes from a wide range of industry stakeholders, ranging from airlines, aircraft manufacturers, air navigation service providers, the fuels industry, and many others. And we have the honor and the pleasure to have with us today the chairman of our last assembly, Madame Poppy Kotza. Next slide, please. Technology, operational improvement, and fuels will be a key, but the largest reductions, i.e. more than half, will be coming in the form of sustainable aviation fuels, lower carbon emission fuels, and other cleaner energies. As for hydrogen, contributions may increase after 2050 as it reaches technological maturity and commercial viability. In order to drive these developments, significant capacity building and implementation support will be needed, including in financing. We must also ensure that no country is left behind. Next slide. Next month, ICAO will hold the third Conference on Aviation and Alternative Fuels, or CAF3, in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. The President of the Council has referred to it in his opening speech. CAF3 will support the reliability and predictability of investments and of certainty and market opportunities, supporting the development and deployment of aviation cleaner energies. The anticipated adoption of a robust global framework at CAF3 will send a crucially important signal to the world. I wish, together with the President of the Council, to extend our sincere invitation to all of you to join us in this momentous event. Next slide. The second priority focus area is cybersecurity and information systems resilience, which encompasses the trust framework and the implementation strategy for large systems deployment. Next slide. As you are well aware, cyber attacks and cybercrime have been on the rise globally. ICAO is taking this risk very seriously. Next slide. More recently, the ICAO Council approved a new governance structure for cybersecurity in ICAO. It comprises a technical coordinating committee of the Council on cybersecurity, a cybersecurity panel reporting to the Aviation Security Committee, and the integration of the Trust Framework Study Group into the ANC panel structure. All regions, including Asia Pacific, should be heavily involved in ICAO's cybersecurity work. Next slide, please. The third focus area is the ICAO crisis response mechanism and framework. Preparedness for serious, irregular, but reasonably predictable disasters is crucial to ensuring that the organization is not exposed to failure at the greatest moment of need. The 2021 High-Level Conference on COVID emphasized the need to strengthen crisis management capacity at the organizational level, leading to a better coordinated and integrated response, regardless of the nature of the crisis. Next slide. The Air Traffic Service Contingency Coordination Teams system and our response to the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrate that ICAO has the start of a framework. However, lessons have been learned and improvements can be made. It is important to acknowledge that in the development of the crisis management framework, versatility, scalability, responsiveness, and effectiveness concepts are crucial and play a crucial role. It is also important to understand that while ICAO is developing a comprehensive crisis management framework, it is of utmost importance that states should be encouraged to develop national contingency plans to anticipate crises. This morning we were discussing with the Air Vice Marshal the experience and the expertise that Bangladesh itself has in this area, and I hope that this experience is shared with ICAO and other member states. Next slide, please. Advanced air mobility and new entrants are the fourth priority focus area. One of the key challenges that the aviation world will collectively face in the coming decade is the successful integration of advanced air mobility and new entrants. Next slide. Unmanned aircraft systems hold the potential of bringing considerable socioeconomic benefits. However, in order to fully reap the benefits of these applications, a robust and harmonized regulatory framework is necessary. ICAO is developing the SARPs, procedures for air navigation services, and guidance material for remotely piloted aircraft systems. ICAO is also developing provisions and implementation tools for unmanned aircraft systems. In this context, a significant and growing number of entities are already using advanced air mobility and also unmanned aircraft systems to support their operations. Examples include the World Food Programme and UNICEF. ICAO welcomes all stakeholders, in particular states in the region, as well as UN sister entities, to share their best practices towards increased harmonization for the benefit of operators, states, and populations. Additionally, ICAO is now addressing the larger advanced air mobility ecosystem, including by developing a holistic and detailed description of advanced air mobility, as well as early implementation guidance on eVTOL operations. Next slide. Next, please. Priority number 5 is USOAP and USAP evolution and engagement. The evolution of the Universal Safety Oversight Audit Program and the Universal Security Audit Program, known as USOAP and USAP, respectively, drives the improvement of ICAO's monitoring function. Next. This, in turn, ensures that it remains fit for purpose. The engagement aspect of this priority refers to increasing member states' interactions with the audit programs. ICAO calls for your support in accepting USOAP and USAP activities as a schedule. States are also called to quickly implement sustainable corrective action plans to address audit findings and proper reporting to the programs through the online framework. I encourage you to closely cooperate with your regional office that will be able to guide your efforts in increasing your participation with safety and security audits. Regional offices' support to the audit programs remains important in allowing for increased activities and for more precisely targeted activities. This in turn improves both the accuracy and relevance of data, which supports the work of all involved. Next slide, please. In the near term, ICAO is exploring efficiencies from further integrating and streamlining the supporting processes and tools. In the mid to long term, a study may be needed to consider a possible joint management of USOAP and USAP, and the potential expansion to other strategic objectives, such as environment and facilitation, consistent with the One ICAO approach. Next slide. Implementation support is the 6th priority focus area. Next. For ICAO to fulfill its mission, the organization has structured its work around 3 key interconnected pillars. The 3rd pillar, which is implementation support, is undergoing a modernization process with the aim of becoming more effective and efficient. While ICAO has traditionally delivered implementation support mainly through projects, the organization has made a concerted effort to establish an even stronger portfolio of products and services that meet the state needs. Furthermore, by enhancing our resource mobilization functions, we are now able to better link states' priority needs to funding and then to implementation activities. Next, please. ICAO is continuously aligning with the evolving needs of APAC member states, and resource mobilization efforts in the Asia-Pacific region will continue to be prioritized. Today, I am pleased to see that several donor countries are supporting APAC activities, such as in the fields of civil aviation master planning, training for government inspectors, and in the small Pacific Island development states areas. Next slide, please. While ICAO has done a great amount of work in the Asia-Pacific region, we recognize that even more needs to be done. We will continue to expand our portfolio of products and services to better address the needs of this region. In addition, the Implementation Support Group will further align its work and enhance coordination with the APAC region's needs. Next slide, please. Helping to underpin all of this is the new ICAO transformational objective. While the Secretariat is steadily and resolutely progressing on the work program of the organization, it is also engaged in achieving the transformational objective to make ICAO fit for the future. Next slide. The transformational objective has developed into 3 transformational pillars of work to achieve the vision and outcomes as it is laid out in the strategy. The 3 transformational objective pillars are people and culture transformation, digital transformation, and operational transformation. Next slide, please. 4 transformational objective outcomes are to be achieved by the end of the triennium in 2025. Next. And this will result in benefits for the member states, including a more motivated ICAO team committed to our service-oriented mission, an organization that is more responsive to your needs and expectations, a more participative and streamlined involvement in the ICAO processes, and an organization with exemplary governance that efficiently and effectively applies your contributions to the benefit of the aviation sector. Next. In 2026 and 2027, the ICAO business plan is likely to include some remaining transformational work in order to fully realize our vision. Next slide. The work is ongoing on key transformational projects like the ICAO People First strategy, the planning and preparation of a new enterprise resource planning and a project portfolio management software tools, the scoping of a document management system project, implementation of the information security roadmap, and the implementation of the results-based management, results-based budgeting approach with a long-term strategic planning. While we are still at the beginning stages, we see strong early results and signs of the overall process. Next. The Assembly approved a regular budget to cover approximately half of the current estimated cost of the transformational objective. Additional voluntary contributions will assist the organization to implement the full scope to reach all planned outcomes. A new transformational fund has been established to manage these voluntary contributions, and I want to acknowledge and thank those states that have contributed so far, and encourage other states to contribute to the transformational fund or to share your expertise through secondment candidates. Projects which have been planned and approved are awaiting that expertise or those resources for implementation. And I would like also to invite you to the ICAO Transformational Objective website and contact any member of the Secretariat for further information. Next slide. I would also like to highlight that a unified global legal framework is key to the orderly and safe development of international civil aviation. I therefore wish to take the opportunity to call upon member states in the Asia-Pacific region that have not done the ratification of international air law treaties to which they are party to do so. It is encouraging to see that the subject of ratification of international air law treaties will be addressed in a working paper to be considered in our agenda item 9. Next slide, please. In line with the overarching scheme of this DGCA conference and leading into the following discussions of the high-level panel, I also wish to reiterate the words of the ICAO Council President and to stress the importance of gender equality and the next generation of aviation professionals. Gender equality is an essential component of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the ICAO Assembly has sent a strong message with the adoption of Resolution A4126, which calls for going beyond the business as usual and demonstrating stronger commitment at all levels. As we heard loud and clear during the Global Aviation Gender Summit this year in Madrid, we are standing at a turning point with a responsibility to promote change. For a transformation to happen in our industry, we need to tackle the gender equality issue through a multifaceted and collaborative approach. We need clear, consistent policies and strategies around gender equality with well-defined targets guided by strong data and analysis. Such policies encompass a wide range of areas, from encouraging more girls and young women to pursue STEM education fields, to unbiased and inclusive hiring and promotion practices, more equitable employment terms, enabling working environments, career development strategies and mentorship programs, enhancing gender representation in executive and management roles through capacity building and setting targets. And of course, active and continuous promotion of gender equality in aviation. Next slide. This is tightly linked to our next generation of aviation professional priorities, which are in turn informed by the forecasted severe and global human resource shortage. Young people will shape the aviation landscape of tomorrow, and we must invest in their development, empowering them with the skills and knowledge they need. For this reason, the ICAO Next Generation of Aviation Professionals program, adopted by Assembly Resolution 839/29, aims to attract, educate, and retain the next generation of aviation professionals. By prioritizing NGAP objectives into our aviation strategy and policies and fostering international collaboration, we can shape a thriving aviation industry that offers equal opportunities, inspires the next generation, and continues to connect nations while fostering sustainable development. On this note, let us strengthen international cooperation and partnerships to leverage resources and learn from one another, which will accelerate progress and avoid the duplication of efforts. The future of aviation depends on our ability to address the impending workforce shortage and embrace gender equality. We have the power and the responsibility to lead the way, to drive positive change and shape the future of our industry. I invite you all to actively engage in the discussions during the high-level panel discussions. This platform provides an excellent opportunity for us to listen, learn, and to draw inspiration from one another. Next slide, please. In concluding now, I invite you to reflect on the global priorities and the regional perspectives that I have shared today. throughout our highly significant meeting. You have an extremely precious opportunity to realize significant progress, and I therefore wish you all fruitful and constructive discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have high-level panel discussion on theme topic of this conference promoting ICAO Gender Equality Program in conjunction with Next Generation of Aviation Professional Initiative. May I now please invite Dr. Rubana Hawk to come on stage and take her seat to moderate the session. I would like to also invite our panelist, Ms. Poppy Khoza, Director of Civil Aviation, South African CAA. Our another panelist, Mrs. Xiaomei Li, Secretary General, China Civil Airports Association. Mrs. M. Merkel, Director, Air Navigation Bureau, ICAO. Mrs. Polana Pramesti, President Director of the Indonesian Air Navigation Service Organizing Agency. Dr. Harpreet Adi Singh, ED Headquarters and Quality Manager, Air India. Mr. Lawrence Vulgus, Assistant Administrator for Policy, International Affairs and Environment, FAA. Now let's have some words about Dr. Rubana Hawk, who is the moderator of this session. Dr. Rubana Hawk is a businesswoman, a poet, and currently the Vice Chancellor of Asian University for Women, an international university in Bangladesh. She is the immediate past president of the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exports Association, BGMEA, and she was also the first female occupant of the post in 4 decades. She is the chairperson of Mohammadi Group, a family business conglomerate whose journey began exporting ready-made garments and has since diversified into software, digital distribution, real estate, power generation, and the group's latest is the launch of a television channel called Nagorik. Dr. Hawk won the SARC Literary Award for her poems in 2006. Her first book of poems is titled Time of My Life. She is the former CEO of TV South Asia, a collaborative platform of South Asian electronic media based in Kolkata. She was featured in BBC's 100 Women in 2013 and 2014. On 25th September 2022, she has been honored with Human Rights Award by CNMI Sustainable Fashion Awards 2022 in Milan Fashion Week, Italy. She represents the global manufacturers in the UNFCCC Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action for the period of 2021 and 22. Dr. Hawk holds a PhD in English Literature from Jadavpur University in Kolkata. She is currently an associate of the Asia Center at Harvard and an executive in residence at Eastern New York University. All these credentials rightly endorse her to moderate the session. May I also request distinguished panelists to take the stage.
I can assure you that I did not send the bio. My office did. So my sincerest apologies for this. I'm deeply grateful to Chairman Civil Aviation for having invited me to moderate this high-level panel discussion. That's fine. I'm sure people can hear me. I'm pretty loud. Okay. So thank you for being here. It was indeed very refreshing to hear that gender equality is absolutely a prime focus of ICAO. And, the net zero by 2050 is, of course, music to our ears, but so much more is, of course, the gender equality. And in an audience of 375, I guess we have only around 35 or 40 women present today. So I'm sad to start with. But let me just share a few unpleasant realities with you, which I'm sure you all know. In 2019, in March, 2 female astronauts were supposed to be walking together. And you know, strangely, they couldn't do it because there was only one space suit in size M available. And that whole walk was postponed to October. So that's sad, you know, that happened actually in reality. Reality in Bangladesh and all over the world for female participation or empowerment happens to be the same. But at the same time, there are some very disturbing statistics. For instance, there's only 4.4% female pilots in USA and 5.2% in Europe. Very honestly, only 3% or less female occupy the C roles in aviation. A couple of others, of course. 42% of women surveyed in 2022 said that they were treated differently, and 30% of them said that they were actually discriminated against. The percentage of female pilots in service increased from 3.6% to 4% globally, and that's kind of okay. The percentage of female aircraft maintenance engineers and technicians rose from 2.7% to 3%. The number of women air traffic controllers remained, however, stable globally at around 20.6%. Now, is that progress? Is our first question. We have some fantastic panelists with us today. I'm sure they need no introduction, but however, I still have to. Sitting to my left is Ms. Poppy Koza. Poppy is the first woman director of civil aviation and is serving her second term. She has chaired various ICAO events, including being elected in October 2022 as the first woman president of the 41st ICAO Assembly in 78 years. Oops. She recently also received the IATA's Diversity and Inclusion Award. So welcome, Poppy. Right next to her is Michelle Merkel. Michelle is serving as the director of the Air Navigation Bureau at ICAO since July 2023. Michelle has over 35 years of experience working to improve the safety, capacity, and efficiency of the global aviation system, providing systems engineering and human factors expertise. She has brought about a culture of innovation at the FAA and is working at ICAO to help member states and industry stakeholders tackle complex aviation challenges. And then quite strategically sandwiched between these brilliant women is Lawrence Wild Goose. And I'll be happy to put him under the bus today. Lawrence was appointed as the Assistant Administrator for Policy, International Affairs and Environment on the FAA in January 2021. In his role, he's responsible for leading the FAA's policy efforts to improve the safety and capacity of the global aerospace system in an environmentally sound manner. His focus is, of course, coordinating the FAA's reauthorization efforts before Congress, improving the safety and efficiency of the national airspace system, and advancing innovation-friendly policies related to safe integration of new entrants, hopefully women, including uncrewed aircraft systems. Oh no, that actually refers to probably aircrafts, right? Yeah, okay, all right, bad luck. Then we have Mrs. Li Xiaomei from 2017 till present. She has been the Secretary General of China Civil Airports Association, and she has many, many years of working experience in airport operation management, service quality management, human resource management, corporate culture construction, public relations management, media publicity, and many other areas. Welcome. Right next to her is Polona Pramesti, who is the first female CEO of AirNav Indonesia, a distinguished leader in the aviation industry, and an accomplished public servant. Polona began her career as the head of Airport Infrastructure Division at the Directorate of Airports, DGCA. Later, she became the technical director at PT Angkasa Pura I. Afterward, she returned to the Ministry of Transportation as the Director of Air Navigation. Polana has a reputation of being an outstanding leader in the aviation industry. Last but not the least, we have Dr. Harpreet Singh. She is the Group Chief, QMS, DMS, ERP, and ED headquarters. With 35 years in aviation and 29 years with Air India, she has broken many glass ceilings. And of course, she was the first woman pilot of Air India. Okay, being the first lady technical instructor as well as the CRM facilitator for pilots, first head of QMS, SMS, EMS, first lady chief of flight safety, first lady accident investigator, and first lady CEO of an airline in India. Many firsts, Harpreet. Welcome. So welcome everyone, and a big round of applause for our panelists, I guess. One quick question to start this conversation. In a scale of 1 to 5, where do you think women are in the aviation industry? Harpreet? 1 to 5?
2.
2. Hello? 2. Mrs. Lee?
2, yes.
3?
2.
2?
4 to 5.
Huh?
About 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Talk about precision. Lawrence?
From the statistics you mentioned, I would have to probably go with a 1.
Wow. He's playing safe now. All right, Michelle?
I'd give it a big goose egg, 0. I mean, we are not even on the scale yet.
Well, how many DGs are here today?
Exactly.
32?
right?
35? A big question. Let's hope you'll have the right answers when Michelle asks you.
Okay.
Poppy?
What was the question again?
1 to 5. 1 to 5, in a scale of 1 to 5, where do you think women are in the aviation industry?
I will agree. Maybe 1 to 1.5.
Wonderful. So we have 1.5, 0, 1, 2.5, and 2s. That's quite strange. How many of you would raise your hands in favor of 0? None? Okay. Let's get on with the conversation. Poppy, you are a recipient of the Diversity and Inclusion Award. Should diversity be a strategy or just an icing on the cake in the civil aviation industry?
So, yeah, very interesting question. I actually do think that it has to be part of the strategy. And I think the big question is, who crafts the strategy? It's leaders. And I think it is the leadership competence to have a strategy first, but what is in that strategy? It could be many other things, including the issues of ensuring that, we achieve the bottom line from a financial perspective, we deliver on the mandate of the organization, and so on. And I think for the longest time, that has really been a priority, but not about the issues of diversity, gender inclusion, gender empowerment, and equality. And I think it is high time that for any leader's scorecard, there ought to be a strategic objective at least. And I was happy when I heard the Secretary General clearly articulating the issues of gender equality as part of the ICAO's focus. What you cannot measure, it's difficult to plan for. So I do think, and a big challenge to each and every leader in this room, to say it's high time that we elevate the issues of gender equality, of inclusion, because if we do not take a conscious and deliberate decision to have it in our strategy, in our strategic outcomes, it will be difficult for us to move the needle. And I think the reason why your first question was, on a scale of 1 to 5, where are we in terms of the gender equality, empowerment, or inclusion? Nobody said at least an average of 3. So it was 2 and below. And I think it's because we have not necessarily been deliberate in ensuring that strategically we reposition the discussion and make it to be deliberate. So at the center of the leadership competence, it should in fact include the issues of gender inclusivity. The Secretary General outlined 7 priorities of ICAO, and I think to me that is a perfect model which all of us must emulate. As leaders, leaders have got to champion the change that leaders want to see. But firstly, you need to have a vision for it. And the big question is, what is the vision of us as leaders in terms of ensuring that we in fact elevate this discussion, not as a talk point, but as an action point. And we have not necessarily been deliberate in elevating this discussion. And it could be a myriad of factors. Maybe it's the societal issues, the stereotypes from the society, which as we get into the workplace, we then don't see any value to ensure that there is inclusivity. But I think we can change it because we have an opportunity. And I said we are in a scale of 1.5 because I think there has been some movement in terms of, one, recognizing that there is a greater need for us to have women included and in fact actively participating in this sector. But the pace is too slow. Okay. And we need to really fast track the issues of gender diversity, inclusivity, and so on. So in the organization that I lead, we've had to take a conscious decision and have it as part of our strategic outcomes. In fact, our Minister of Transport, who is a woman, has ensured and in fact insists that there ought to be a change in terms of the representation at all state-owned entities. The Airports Company South Africa, which is the Airports Authority, is led by a woman. Air Navigation Services is led by a woman. The Civil Aviation Authority is also led by a woman. So at the leadership core, up to ministerial level, I think there's a lot that we can do if we're to sharpen the discussion from political leadership, but as leaders who are responsible for civil aviation authorities and the industry, equally we have a bigger responsibility because politicians can do so much. In any event, they change all the time, but most likely the DGs would remain. And I think we have even a bigger responsibility at the DG level to ensure that we lead the change that we want to see. But let's be deliberate about it and ensure that it is indeed realized. We've got to have enabling policies, policies that are not gathering dust somewhere, policies that are just politically correct, so that if you are asked, you then say, no, but I do have a policy that talks about gender equality, but when it comes to implementation, the results are not showing. So I think the policies and the implementation of them is extremely important. But I think, lastly, the culture is also important. It's not a numbers game. To me, it's really not a numbers game. but it's got to be inclusivity in a sense that we create a conducive environment, that when women have been identified for whatever role, they get the necessary support and be allowed to thrive, and not to be given tasks and be set up for failure, which is something that we have not really spoken about, but we see it in action. I was in a very privileged position last year, and thank you, Secretary General and the President of ICAO, for entrusting me to chair the ICAO Assembly. But I can tell you now, if I had failed, none of the women would have wanted to elevate and taken a chance in the next assembly
Thank God you
to
didn't
want
fail.
to preside. And that was because there was a deliberate intention. I made it a mission that if I'm given that task, firstly, I knew I could. The pressure was enormous, but equally, I did not want to fail those that would follow. So I think even us as women leaders, we've got to ensure that when we rise up, we lift others with us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so Michelle, coming to you. The Global Gender Gap Report basically says that it'll take at least 132 years to bridge the gap. How far do you think equality or gender inclusion is removed from the SDG Goal 5? What do you feel, and how would you go about it?
Thank you for that, Rubana. And I think that type of statistic is why I gave us such a poor rating, right? So we are far away from reaching that goal. First, let me say, and the Secretary General said it this morning, that, you know, as a UN agency, we certainly support the UN 2030 goal for sustainability and particularly Goal 5 for gender equality, and we are making progress, right? In 2017, ICAO established the Gender Equality Program. And that has been a very important initiative to elevate the topic of gender equality, to raise awareness, to get collaboration, people working together on this topic to solve this issue. So I think that's been very significant. Likewise, last October at the Assembly, the Assembly approved a resolution reinforcing the importance of gender equality. So I think the hooks are in place. People are now talking about it. People now realize what an issue it is, right? And why is this such an issue? It's not only the right thing to do, it's the necessary thing to do. We talk about the staffing shortages that we have. We're leaving 50% of the population out of the equation, right? By not looking more broadly at women, we're never going to be able to staff for the future. This afternoon, I'll be showing a slide that shows the traffic forecasts for the out years. We have staffing challenges today. We'll never be able to accommodate the traffic demand in the future if we don't think more broadly about how we hire, staff, and retain employees to include all people of all genders, right? And so we need to be doing more outreach to young people in particular. You know, it's interesting. We don't think anything of the fact that it takes 15 to 20 years from the time you do research and development and SARP's development to implementation on new aviation technologies. But we don't invest in people by going to primary schools and trying to get young girls interested in the field of aviation. College is too late, right? We need to recruit girls when they're of a young age and show them the opportunities that are in aviation. And because this shortage we have, it's pilots, it's air traffic controllers, it's flight inspectors, it's manufacturers, it's airlines, airports. I mean, it's across the board, training personnel. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, but we're not promoting them people don't know they're out there. Girls aren't hearing about these opportunities. We chatted yesterday. You're a chancellor at All Girls University. It's like, wow, what an opportunity to go there and talk about the field of aviation, right, and all the opportunities that exist. So I think the scope of the problem is big. It's very complex, but we can break it down to make it solvable, right? Again, as a systems engineer, that's how my mind works. It's break this down, make it solvable. So first of all, we need governance and accountability, right? So Poppy talked about policies. We need to make sure gender equality is built into our policies, our programs, and our budgets, right? Because that's money talks, right? We need to do outreach, we need to do education, and that costs. We don't need to do that in isolation as government or as ICAO, but we can band together with industry, with academia. We need to do that type of outreach and that type of education, I think, to really make an impact in the future. And we need better advocacy. So when I look around at a room full of men, I say, well, my goodness, who's going to be the advocates for all the young women? It's got to be the men in the room, right? Because there aren't enough women here to make a difference.
Lawrence to start with.
And he's an excellent role model. He is. And I worked with Lawrence at the FAA, so I can honestly say that. But that's what we need. We need men to be coaches, role models, mentors for women. It can't just be women helping women. And so, you know, like I said, I think the hooks are in place. I commend the Bangladesh Civil Aviation Authority for putting this on the agenda with this captive audience who can't leave the room, right? Because this is what we need. These are the leaders, as Poppy said, it's the leaders who have to be responsible and accountable, and that's the people in this room. So if in 25 years from now, I know it's hard to think that aviation won't survive given the demand for air travel, right? But if we don't have the staff to meet that demand, we're at risk. And it's going to be the people in this room who are remembered for that, right? For not taking action. So the Secretary General talked about the gender summit that was held in Madrid, right? And out of that came some concrete actions that I encourage all the states to look at that and see what resonates. What can you be doing to improve gender equality in your institutions? Because we need to walk the talk, right? Not just talk the talk.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, my favorite part about, I really want to ask Lawrence a straight question. Would you agree if I said that aviation is an all-boys club?
I would argue that aviation historically has had an overrepresentation.
That's being politically correct. I asked you a straight yes or no question.
Come on,
no,
Lawrence.
maybe.
Come on, Lawrence.
No?
No.
No. Why would you say this?
Because you asked me on a scale of 1 to 5, where I thought my measure of success in terms of gender equality with respect to women. I said a 1. We have a lot of work that we need to do. We've had some success. There's still a lot more to do. And before you ask another question, I spent some time over the last few days thinking about this morning's panel. And I have some thoughts I want to share because I think it'll help provide a good foundation for my fellow panelists and for the audience members to know my perspective and what we've been doing in the U.S. So first, I want to say thank you, Dr. Huck, for moderating today's panel conversation. I also want to thank Civil Aviation Authority of Bangladesh, especially Vice Marshal Rahman, for promoting gender equality for this year's theme. The next time someone says that we don't have enough women leaders in aviation, I would remind them about today's conversation. I'm also very excited to talk about the topic of gender equality, something that I'm deeply passionate about. But before we take off, I want to provide some context to help ground the conversation. Aviation has presented the opportunity for gender equality from the very beginning. Bessie Coleman, a woman of Black and Native American heritage, represents the barriers that help aviation break. In 1921, so more than 100 years ago, she was the first woman in either category to earn a pilot's license in the world. Notably, the first African American to earn an international pilot's license. Her story of courage, determination, and perseverance defines inspiration. Her trailblazing legacy lives on over 100 years later. So to me, the question really is, why are we still talking about gender equality a century later? I'll use the FAA as an example. We implemented programs to specifically recruit women over 40 years ago. Yet our overall numbers do not reflect the anticipated growth that Michelle just mentioned. So, as I said to you, we have more work to do. For example, over the past 20 years, women account for only 16% of air traffic controllers. Once again, we have more work. You mentioned the stat that in the U.S., I think 4.5% of pilots are women. However, as a more positive story, we have seen success developing and recruiting amongst FAA's leadership team. In the past, a large proportion of women in the FAA have held primarily administrative roles. Today, almost 33%, so 17% away from 50% of our executives within the FAA are female, including for the first time in FAA history, women hold our two most senior executive roles within the FAA. Our acting administrator, Polly Trottenberg, as well as our deputy administrator, Katie Thompson. In fact, within the larger U.S. Department of Transportation, our sister agency, the Federal Transit Administration, is the first modal administration in the U.S. government to have women of color, and an Hispanic woman as both the administrator and deputy administrator. At last year's DGCA conference in Incheon, I mentioned that actively recruiting more women into aviation not only helps bring in talented leaders with fresh perspectives, but also helps us to increase the sustainability of this sector that we all care about. Because we're here today engaging in conversation. And lastly, I'll wrap up here. You already put a tremendous amount of responsibility on my shoulders by saying, as a leader in this space, I must lead the way and hold myself and my team accountable. I have to create a culture in which we explore far and wide to get the best possible talent. We don't have to specifically look for men or for women. We have to be laser focused on finding the best and brightest. I think what you see assembled around this platform today is an indication of the awesomeness of women and what they can bring to the table. representing every part of the globe. And so as we continue today's discussion, hearing from you, and I certainly want to hear from our audience members as to ideas and strategies that they have implemented, because I want to take some of the goodness that I hear and take it back to the U.S. and hopefully be able to implement it there as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lawrence. And Mrs. Lee. So we heard the US, now it's time to hear China. I really want to understand how you feel about women in aviation in China, and do you really think that women have made progress?
我本人在这个民航的这个领域呢工作了40年，应该是亲身见证了这个行业的发展和进步。那么至于到中国呢，因为我们可能从这么几个方面哈，一个是从中国政府哈，其实在2021年就已经发布了妇女发展纲要明确提出了要平等发展和全面发展。同时呢，也确定了男女平等。
Thank you for your question. I have been working in the civil aviation industry for a full 40 years, witnessing firsthand the development of civil aviation in China. So for your question, I would like to split it in the following. So firstly, in 2021, the Chinese government has issued the outline for women's development in China, and it has clearly set out the equality between men and women.
对，确定了就是男女平等哈，要在全方位、全生命周期，特别是在健康、就业还有经济、政治以及社会保障等8个领域方面的目标和措施，这就为推动这个性别平等哈，应该是有一个实质性的一个举措。另外从行业来说呢，就是我们民航局是在2021年发布了“十四五”的发展纲要，在这个纲要里呢，明确提出了要这个就是积极和这个包容的这个开放的人才政策要这个打造我们民航的这个创新型技术技能型以及国际化的人才那么所以呢，在这个国家和这个行业层面哈，都做了很多努力。作为女性个人哈，其实也在自尊、自信、自立、自强方面做了很多的努力
So the outline for women's development in China is very comprehensive, and it puts forward 8 sectors targets covering health, education, economy, politics, social security, and it's facilitated the substantive progress in gender equality. And from the industry's perspective, the Civil Aviation Administration of China released its 14th five-year plan in 2021, and it explicitly stated that we need to create an open and inclusive talent pool with innovative and technically skilled professionals with global vision be cultivated. So from the level of the government, and we see the level of industry efforts has been done, and also there is the efforts made by individuals.
我想用一个数据来说一下，就是去年哈，就是麦肯锡哈有一个专门的专题的报告研究显示，在中国呢，女性的就业率已经达到了44.8%。所以我刚才您问的那个问题哈，我说的是40%我是这样依据来的
So also I would like to share with you some statistics. Actually, according to a McKinsey study last year, China's overall female employment rate reached 44%, and that is why I said for about 40%, which equals to 2.5 to your earlier question.
我们正在向这个国际民航组织提出的50%的这个目标努力。那么中国机场目前有255个机场，其中我们有千万级机场是41个。在这个41个机场当中呢，这个我们有29个千万级机场是由女性高管的，也就是说有70%的 女性高管在这个千万级机场当中任职。
So we are working towards the 50-50 gender equality goal. And in China, we have 255 airports, of which 41 airports has throughput of over 10 million. And 29 of the 41 airports, we see female senior managers in these airports. So we have about 70% of female senior executives in these airports.
Thank you.
据我的观察对，和这个我的亲身经历就是女性高管呢其实她们在学习能力包括适应外部环境的能力还有这个团队合作以及这个关注员工的情感方面，还是有独特的优势的谢谢。
And based on my observation and experience, I see that female senior executives have a strong capacity in learning, and they play a very unique role in teamwork, and also they have empathy to our employees.
Thank you. We have less than 15 minutes left for our panel discussion because we want to involve the audience. Otherwise, it's going to be a monologue, actually. So, Polona, what is AirNav doing to support female participation?
Thank you, Robana. My name is Polana.
Polana.
Okay.
Apologies.
Yes. AirNav Indonesia is the only air navigation service provider in Indonesia. I think if talking about the gender equality, in our country, in Indonesia, the government already focused on the boosting the role and participation of women in the development. So in our government policy is already talk about the gender equality. And also because NSP AirNav Indonesia is one of the state-owned enterprise, also in the Ministry of State-owned Enterprise is already one of the policy to increase the involvement of women's or female, especially in the C-level or director. We already reached at the moment already in the state-owned enterprise we already have about 20.3% of the director. It is consists of 55 directors in the state-owned enterprise, where maybe also in AirNav Indonesia as we also enforce female employee to have to reach the to increase the capability. So we also have the policy to increase the position in the senior level. In the senior level, our target is 4 in this year. We already reached this position, BOD -1. We call it BOD -1. The person who under the board of director, we already reached 4 people or 4 female in our company out of 29 position. And also we are not only BOD -1, but also the manager level. We also have the policy to increase the position of female in our company. If we're talking about the gender equality, the problem is maybe based on our experience but you in the aviation sectors at the moment, yes, we have few female high level position. I used to be the first woman Director General of Civil Aviation in 2018, but unfortunately now as the DG are also a female, Ibu Christy, but unfortunately she cannot come to this conference. And in aviation industry in Indonesia, we only have 8 female C-level. I mean the highest position of the position. one DG. In Airnav Indonesia, we have two female director, me, myself, and other CFO. And in airport sector, only have two, and airline only maybe two, and it's also only 8 out of the C-level position in aviation in Indonesia. So maybe the point is, or the main, as mentioned by Michelle, that we, already in Indonesia, that the most important thing, that commitment for the government, commitment for the leaders, that the increasing of women in aviation sector has need to be increased. For example, in Airnav Indonesia, for the operation people, for example, ATC, reached about 37%, quite high. But the higher the level, the decreasing the percentage of female in the managerial position. Then one of inherent in, as a CEO of Airnav Indonesia, I thought that based on my experience, the challenges is first, because we live in the eastern of the country, so there is a gender stereotypes that sometimes there is leading to misconception about women abilities, including doubt that mentioned by Poppy yesterday about their technical skill, about the emotional stability, physical capability, leadership skill, etc. And the other challenge is work-life balance, because female women is not only have to face in their career, but also they have to be, we have to be a wife, a mother, or that's the most, what should I say, the constraint or challenge that we face in this industry, I think. And one more, I think we have lack of representation of women leaders in aviation. Maybe Michelle, very extreme, 0. But if we look at it in the room, I just want to inform you that Indonesian delegation now we consist of 6 people, and 14 of them is women.
Great, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And only the head of delegation, Captain Boy, the director of airworthiness, is a man. But this is one of the commitment that Indonesia is supporting, that the gender equality is not only the set in the resolution, but also we need to do the action how to increase the woman participation in this industry.
Thank you, Polana. So Harpreet, everybody has been speaking about their organization, their vision. You being a woman of many firsts, I want to hear from you first, and then I'll turn to everyone else. Apart from talking about what Air India is doing, who did you look up to when you were growing up? Was it your dad? Was it your mom? Was it another role model somewhere?
Yeah, I think I definitely looked up at my dad and my entire family, who actually always fought it out and survived. We are survivors. We are not going to give up. We are always going to do the right thing, honestly, truthfully, and we are going to survive, and we're going to make it. And I think that's the spirit with which I was brought up, and that was the spirit with which I worked all my way through, and I had my ups and downs, but I never gave up. And I think life, if it's a straight line, it's not a life, right? The ECG takes you up and down. You have to go with the tide, enjoy it fully, and live in the moment. And there's nothing that a woman cannot do, which a man can. Like the aircraft doesn't know it's a man or woman flying it. The aircraft doesn't know who's maintaining it. And as long as you're properly trained, you have the passion, you have the determination, and you know that you can do it, you will do it. It's simple. It's just in the mind. You just have to take that decision that I'll do it. And that's it. It's that decision that makes it happen. It's the weakness of the spirit that brings you down. You know, as long as you know you can do it, you will do it. It's as simple as that.
That's a great response. But tell us now about the great things that Air India possibly is doing.
Firstly, I'm very fortunate to be called here. Thank you to ICAO and to IATA, who also were involved in this process, I think. And thank you to ICAO for this wonderful initiative. And also to IATA, because they are driving that 25 by 2025, and Air India was one of the first airlines to be participating in that. And thanks to the government of India, which has always actually believed in equality. I come from the land. Today is actually auspicious day. We have this 9-day puja called Navratri. And it is the day, the first day today is of Goddess Durga in her 9 forms. So on one hand, there is love and peace and tenderness and compassion, which is my emotional quotient, which is typically symbolic of the feminine or the woman. But then you also have the woman that is victorious, the woman that conquers, that woman that destroys evil. And that is the Durga we are talking about. And today, India is symbolic of that. And all the government activities have led us to have the highest percentage of women pilots in the entire planet as of today. I know you spoke about 4.4, we are at 15% already. And there's a reason. Nothing happens just like that. There were reasons, there was a social environment, there were a lot of our bodies of the regulation, of the social structure that together made it move forward. I'm also the president of the International Women Professionals in Aviation and Aerospace and the Indian Women Pilots Association. And we have gone door to door, talking to families, encouraging people that why don't you come forward? You have to start when the girls are young. You have to have these dynamics that, okay, I got where I had to reach, but success is when you can make others go even better than you. That's the true success, that you can actually make more women. If every woman and every man can bring 50 more to be better than them, then I would say your life has been a success. Not that you just be, oh, I got it where I got it, and that's where it ends. It doesn't end there. It ends only when you see more and more. And that's what is the spirit that is required. As far as Air India goes, I'm so happy and proud about Air India because of their culture, of their inclusivity. You need not be equal in the physically, right? Equality doesn't mean physical equality because man and woman is different. But in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of diversity and inclusion, in terms of ensuring that you also send the message across. We did the first all-women flights years ago in the 80s. We started then, and then later on in 2004, we had our first international all-women flight. And I was on board on 95% of those flights. So I have a real journey with these all-women flights to plan it. That means, like what Poppy said, the coordination, the strategy, make it happen, make it a showcase. Hundreds of girls are watching those videos of those, so many women pilots all in a line going all around the world. In their uniforms, sparkling away. The maintenance engineer is certifying the aircraft. The air traffic controller is a lady. The flight dispatcher is a lady. The doctor who's doing the breathalyzer check is a lady, and the other people involved, the cabin crew, of course, our important force is also all women. We planned those things. There was a strategy behind it. Our most recent one we did just this year was even the women, passengers were also women in the Hajj flight. The entire flight had only women on board. So it was a Hajj flight of Air India Express. The pilots, the engineers, the cabin crew, the passengers are women. We did just before that, we did polar, across the pole, and then we did all around the world to San Francisco and back with 4 women pilots. Can you imagine? And then we planned a case where flights from New York coming in, flights from San Francisco going out. So you had 8 lady captains walking in and walking out at the same time with full crew and with full, the message that you send to the world, don't think you can't do it. It's so easy. Actually, we have to stop thinking it's difficult. When you think it's easy, your mind is already ready to take it on, right? When you make it sound, I do things, oh, I work so hard. Why do you work so hard? I work joyfully because I enjoy what I do. And the moment you change the thought, the mindset behind it, you're there.
Great.
And so I think that's the vision. And Air India, just one more thing I wanted to say. We have a beautiful MAT policy. We have a new framework started for moms when they return from work, our women who are flying, and we take full care of them. Besides the maternity leave, we have nurturing, caring, we have special QTA plan for their first 1 year. You know, you have to, as a system, you have to support. Only then the women are going to come forward so that they can be nurturing as well. They can continue to be, like my friend said, to be mothers, to be daughters, to be family women, and yet have a successful career. I myself have 2 grown-up children, and I'm happily married and happily working. There's no problem.
Excellent.
You know, you need that kind of support.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you. So very quickly, before we turn to the audience, who was your role model? Poppy. Quickly.
I had plenty.
Name one.
I don't have one specific, to be honest, because I had plenty.
Okay.
And ironically, majority of them were men.
Men?
Yes, because the civil aviation industry is still male-dominated.
I was still
But
talking
some
about
men were able to embrace and also make way, identify the talent, and also provided the opportunities. So we have it in us as human beings to do it, just as human beings, you know, because in my view, that was just a moral thing to do, a human rights thing to do.
Excellent.
Don't discriminate.
All right.
But if we can replicate that and have more men who are able to say, it's okay to have a woman boss.
Incidentally,
and it's okay for me to want to hire you and make you my second in charge, so that when I step out, there is a succession, you can step in.
So it's hashtag she for she also.
She for she, and
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay, all right, Michelle. So who were you inspired by most?
Growing up.
Yeah.
Both of my parents, for different in the same reason, they both had grit and determination. My father was a survivor of the Bataan Death March. My mother immigrated here as a young girl right before World War II. And so, you know, I had fabulous role models to show me anything could be done. Neither of them were college educated, neither of them finished high school. But they made sure all 5 of their children went away to college and got educated. So they were both my role models.
Great. Okay, I'll skip Lawrence. Mrs. Lee, who was your role model when you grew up?
我觉得我的榜样好像身边有很多成功的女性都应该是我的榜样，包括今天在座她们也都可以是我的榜样
Role models in my life, and also the distinguished panelists here present today, the excellent female panelists could be my role models.
Thank you. Polana.
Okay. My role model was actually my father, my late father, because he is the one who encouraged me, who pursued me to be independent. Even though I am a girl, that you have to be has to be equal to the man. So my father was my model, because he said that there is no female value or man value. There is only human value. So that's why my role model, one of my role models, is my father. Also, the girls, also Lawrence, also my role model, because you are the one that encouraged us to be exist in the aviation sector. Thank you.
Great. I think we finished right on time, probably 1 minute late. But we now turn to the audience. Is there anything that any of you want to ask the audience, or are there questions or observations from the audience that anyone would like to share? It's pretty much an open panel, please. Please don't say that, you know, women empowerment is not at a 0. I actually very agree with Michelle. Well, 0.5 perhaps, but it's still close to 0. Any questions?
There is a question.
Please identify yourself.
FAA, Kimberly Pyle. My question is, if you want to get a different output in the system, you have to change the system. So what are you going to do to change the system that has produced an output that's 95% male pilots, for example?
Lawrence, do you want to take that question?
Sure. So within the past 2 years, I've had to hire 4 new executives on my team. 2 have been men, and 2 have been women. I didn't have to search hard or far to find them. They're readily available, years of experience within the industry, strong record of leadership and developing staff. So that's one example. Also, since I've been at the FAA, all of my senior advisors that I've hired have been women. And I actually rotate my senior advisors on an annual basis.
Was it a deliberate bias or? Okay.
Absolutely. I realized that everyone has potential, but until you can create opportunities for leaders to step into what they can offer, and you create a culture around them in order to be successful. And also,
So what will you do to make it better is the question. What can you do, not what you have done? Maybe they don't like what we are saying. That is definitely a protest.
For your people when they're not in the room, and creating opportunities for them to grow and develop. 2 things that I have done and continue to do.
Thank you, Lawrence. Anyone else, please? Otherwise, I'll ask a very mean question to the chairman of civil aviation. How many female pilots do we have in Bangladesh?
There is a hand right at the back.
I'll hand over to we have one female pilot, Biman, is here. The numbers is very meager at least at this moment, but it's not so low. It's encouraging that I would like to add here, as I was hearing that, as you know, the awareness was not there before, but what we see in the the recent past, there is a big changes in the field of they are coming more, because it is not that there's somebody refrained them to come here. It was the female, they didn't feel much lucrative in the aviation. Now, as from the government, civil aviation side, airline side, we are promoting females to come. So there is a change. And as you heard that today morning, we in Bangladesh, we are also introduced a scholarship so that the females are more attracted. We have some financial support that we want to give. And more, I like to share, my personal feeling. I wanted my daughters to be pilot, but she declined. But she declined to be pilot, but she wanted to marry a pilot. So there is a psychological barrier is also there, but we need to break that one somehow or other. So that's my proposition. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just add one thing here, in my own experience, I've also seen the women, even after joining, like he said, psychological barrier, within some time, the women are quite satisfied by just being where they are. They say, oh, I've got a decent salary, and it's okay, I reached where I had to reach. And where's the drive? Where's the drive to go forward? So let's not only blame the men, it's also the women have to wake up and realize that the world is out there. Climb the ladder, don't just sit there. You have to make that change yourself as well. So while we need to push, we need to also look at the psychological thing and make them wake up, you know.
Anyone else from the audience?
I wanted to.
Thank you, moderator. This is Mukul Mishra, Director CNS, CA Nepal.
We can't
My
hear
question might not be politically correct to many, I'm afraid. The question to the panelists is that, the ladies, how would you rate the level of job satisfaction in women in aviation, especially when it entails a 24/7 duty, and in the initial days, when you have to balance work and family commitments? Thank you.
I didn't hear the question.
How would you, it's about job satisfaction, right? Yes, so about job satisfaction. How satisfied are you as a female? You want to take that?
That's a very difficult question. But I think we've seen the polls. There is a research which indicates that women particularly are not 100% satisfied in their jobs, particularly in civil aviation. It's because of a myriad of factors. The environment is not conducive. The issues of culture, which is not so welcoming, and promotion, salary issues, opportunities are very limited, and so on. So it's generally job satisfaction levels are pretty low. In fact, we did a poll in the Global Aviation Journal Summit in Spain, where women were responding, indicating the things that they were not happy about. I so wish that those results were here so that the leaders could see what needs to be changed in their own environments. Women were saying salaries, there's no equity when it comes to salaries, the issues of work-life balance, the issues of uniforms, the issues of opportunities, promotion, and so on. So those are the things that we need to strategize and transform in our own respective organizations so that we make the environment more conducive for women to thrive.
Like Harpreet was saying, that the aircraft doesn't know whether it's a male or a female flying, but unfortunately, the aircrafts that are flying out there are of course being maneuvered on the ground by policymakers who aren't giving that priority to women. Unfortunate, but that's the reality, I guess. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Hello. May I ask that the question that was asked by the FAA be looked at one more time? When I was working in the airlines and we were getting applicants to come in, girls are slowly increasing in numbers, but the interest level does not seem to be there. We need to do more in schools, young girls, to promote the industry, to make them interested. And you ladies on the stage are great examples. I wish we could take you around to schools to show the young girls that it is possible. It is not a male-centric industry. It is not going to remain a male-centric industry. And that women too can play a part in this industry. But we need to go to the schools. We need to catch the girls when they are young, plant the seeds of interest, and hopefully that develops into careers. Thank you.
That's a perfect question for actually Michelle. Let her respond first, because Michelle, you were talking about going to schools and starting to, sort of enthuse the young students with the opportunity in aviation.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that comment. Like I said, college is too late. We need to motivate young girls and overcome some of these biases and stereotypes. People would say, well, girls aren't interested in math and science. That's not true. Who came up with that, right? I was interested in it. I'm an engineer, so I don't believe that. And I think we have to overcome those stereotypes and get out there and talk to these girls about different opportunities. And I think they'll rise to the challenge. The other thing I'd say, and this is for females as well as young men, we need to make aviation exciting to these kids again, right? So when I got into aviation 40 years ago, it's because I thought the auto industry was really boring. Now kids feel that way about the aviation industry because flying is so commonplace for many people. So we need to make it exciting again and appeal to their passions. The environment, what a great opportunity for us to sell aviation to young kids when we talk about what we're trying to do to reduce carbon emissions, right? New technologies, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, eVTOL. It's young people who are working in these new types of industries because it's great for the environment. So I just think we need to seize the opportunity, seize the moment right now to engage these young kids, because I think we are doing some interesting stuff in aviation that will excite young people again.
Great. So, Lawrence, if you were to do that, how would you do it? How would you engage with young people all over the region?
So we're doing it right now within the FAA. So our STEM APSET program, Aviation and Space Education program, we start targeting students in primary school or 4th grade.
Where? In the States?
In the States. And across the country, we have adopted elementary schools in every region of the country. And we have FAA employees who help build curriculum to introduce students at an early age, because studies show...
Primary level students?
Yeah.
Grade 5? Wow.
Because studies indicate that you have to spark the interest at an early age, because as Michelle said, by the time they're in college, it's too late. So we introduce young kids, and we have a focus on historically underserved communities who may not be as familiar with the benefits of aviation. We have over 1,800 employees across the FAA who volunteer time every year to go into schools, to go into different community associations, et cetera, to introduce them. And Michelle is dead on. We don't have to think about aviation in the traditional historical sense of jet aircraft and propeller-led planes. When you think about decarbonizing the aviation system and wanting the world to be better today, well, in the future than what it is today, that's exciting. When you think about air taxis, it is better for the environment, a lot cleaner, much quieter, and creates economic opportunities for communities all across the world. When you think about commercial space, this is arguably the most exciting time in aviation ever. But we have a duty to share the message far and wide so folks can understand the value and the impact that they can have and what aviation can do for them.
Would you stretch your responsibility from US down to Asia so that you can replicate what you're doing in the US and also, enthuse our primary schools over here? I mean, we certainly need more female empowerment here.
Well, so happy to share what we're doing in the US.
No, Lawrence, replicate. When you replicate, will you come up with a pilot project over here so that we can implement it? I mean, we are all sitting here just not as a panel. Unless there is a collective pledge that comes out of this panel, along with the audience, what are we doing here?
But I'd be careful to suggest that what we're doing in the U.S. works for everywhere else around the world. I think there are lessons that we can learn. Dr. Singh talked about 15% of female pilots.
If I can just add to what she's saying, we are willing to volunteer as IWPA. The model that we followed to get to that 15%. All that we did was, at least every 2-3 months, we would have these beautiful aviation events where we invite all the school children. We invite different people from different aviation organizations. It's done through the Aeronautical Society of India as well as through the Indian Women Pilots Association. We invite them, we get them excited. The ones who really want more information, we guide them through this whole process onto how to professionally follow it up as a career, and we do it for free. Huh? Yeah. It's a charitable trust. We are happy to do this in Bangladesh. Excellent. I'm committing for that.
In fact, if I may add,
yes, please.
In South Africa, we have equally a bigger advocacy program where we visit schools across all 9 provinces, and we spark the interest, create awareness, particularly in the rural areas, where the kids in the rural areas cannot relate to anything that says aviation. You find that there's no airport around, they've never seen a pilot, they know nothing about flying. So to create that interest, even in the deep rural areas, has proved to be very successful, because out of that program, we've also managed to give bursaries to some of those students from previously disadvantaged communities. We've also launched just recently the Young Aviation Professionals Assembly, where we have the role models who are already in aviation, the young ones, who have become our advocates. And we take them along with us as the regulatory authority across, schools on a weekly basis. So the advocacy program that we are running is quite huge. In fact, if you were to visit our social media, you will see how much we're doing in terms of, trying to create that awareness and make it exciting, as Michelle was saying, make it fashionable. That's what we also say. And we see that there's a lot of interest. So the stereotype and this notion that there are no women when it comes to employment, I don't think it is true.
Okay.
There's a lot of talent.
Can I give another floor? Just to have, as you asked the data, how many pilots, I was not willing to mislead the forum. So I got the information. It is only around 20 female pilots at this moment out of 300 total. That is in the commercial side, and the important is that we can see there is a good change. The newly recruited flight cadets, those are operator doing the training now, around 25% are female now. So it is there is a growing, the figure is growing, improving. And in the military, we have a good number of female pilots now. So there I find there is a kind of some kind of feeling that probably in the civil commercial side, we could not create an environment where they felt confidence or trust in the coming to the civil aviation. Whereas in the military, they are more trained to go to there, so that in the Air Force especially, so the Air Force could establish a good environment. So I think this is the forum that we have, what we take on from this year, especially Dr. Harvichi. She said that how to motivate and your offer to come to the school.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you very much. I really appreciate. In fact, last week I was attending a school program. I was asking the students, what do you want to be? Some tell, many of them, none told my civil aviation school. I have 5 schools. But none of the students told that he wants to come and join the civil aviation. So I was little frustrated, and I asked the school authority to take them, to give them 4 years, some kind of curriculum, or take them to the aviation industries, or to bring them to the airport, and the airliners, so that they are motivated. So these are the very good examples. I'd like to thank you, thank the forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, the panelists.
At the back, yes, please. Thank you. While the microphone goes to, okay, he has got it.
Hi, ma'am. I'm from the Pilot Federation, so I'm a pilot. So I think it's true that early on when you said that there's an issue of culture and confidence, where there are some biases and all that. But I don't know how it is in the States or in Europe, but in Asia at least, one of the most biggest obstacle in going into aviation as a career or even a hobby is cost. It is deadly expensive. If you want to send your child to go to a flying school to enjoy flying and become a pilot and whatever else, it's like $700 an hour. Not everybody can afford. When I started flying, I had a scholarship from the airline, and I don't have to pay a single cent. But right now, the App Initial program, you pay yourself. If mommy and daddy got to take a loan from the bank. So I don't know if together we can find a way where we can sponsor or give some low interest loan. And I think cost is another factor you should consider.
Yeah. Thank you. I can only say that when you do good things, money isn't a problem. I work with a university which focuses on the most underserved communities in Bangladesh and across 17 nations, and 87% are funded. And we've never run short of money. We started in 2008, and so far we're running on full swing, never had to look for money. It has always found us. So I think if we have the conviction amongst us, I'm sure that we'll be able to do something. Well, let's start with giving away simulators to schools. I mean, I have one at home and I crash every time I try to fly it. Anyone else with a question?
Hi, good morning. My name is Ishtiaq Hussain. I'm a pilot as well, and representing IFALPA and BMAN here, both. So I just compliment what Chairman Civil Aviation just said, that we have 4 private carriers in Bangladesh, and amongst that, BMAN has the most female pilot at this moment. It is 16. We have a total pilot of 180, so 8.9% of female pilots working. And I have 2 quick comments that the mindset needs to be changed, because if you open the electronic or print media, you will see that the headline is like female leaders. So we have to change our mindset to make it a leader, not the female leaders. And secondly, that in every year we are organizing and celebrating Women's Day. So we are discriminating by ourselves that there should be a Women's Day separate from the men. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment on that. I think until we normalize the gender parity, to me it is okay to have a Women's Day, because there is a particular deliberate decision or intent that we've got to elevate the issues of gender representation. Until we stop talking about first woman this, and I've enjoyed many firsts, but it's irrelevant because it's history. What do we do in terms of ensuring that we open the pipeline such that it becomes a flood of women, such that we even forget that there was a first woman this and first woman that. So until we get to a stage where things become normal and gender is neutral, it's no longer an issue, my sense is that we have to elevate the discussion and also celebrate Women's Day, because there is a particular agenda behind it, and that's to keep the discussion ongoing so that we don't neglect it. It may sound as if there is some discrimination. It is not. The agenda here is that we need to get to the certain level where we balance the scales. And until we get to that,
we should have Women's Day.
We should have it.
So why don't we have a Men's Day? Nobody's stopping you. So let's have a Men's Day also to celebrate the men that really support good things in life. They support women. We have a he for she chapter, and we have a
It should be she for she, Harpreet.
Yeah, it's she for she as well as he for she. And actually, I do agree with the spirit with what he's saying, that eventually if we remove these colors and boundaries of nations and sex and who we are all beautiful, wonderful souls from inside with divine light. We are not yet there. Once we get there, we would not need to have these discussions. The fact that we are having the discussion, we're still not there. Therefore, we are doing all this. So therefore, I support her that we need to do it. But let's also have Men's Day, because I do support the men who sometimes suffer in the problems when they have a lot of women around them.
We have time
in the
for
lighter
only
wind.
one question now. If anybody, yes, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I'm from Malaysia. Okay, we know for a fact that mothers are women. Okay, how can we encourage aviation industry to overcome the issue of not preferring women as employees in some places due to the concern about maternity leave? That's all.
Polana, would you want to take that?
Yes. Yes, you are correct that But as I mentioned before, that woman is not only works but also be a part of family. We are our mother, we are sister, we are daughter. One of the important thing that woman can have. We need a support system. We need support system. Not only man, not only husband, not only father, but also other women also need to be empowered. As we did in Airnav Indonesia, that I'm glad to inform you that we already just launched the mentor-mentee for 9 women in Airnav Indonesia. The mentee and the mentor is from a woman at Air Service Australia. Thank you. We have collaborated to empower other women to be more, what should I say, to be more involved in their career, not only as a part of the family, but how to increase the involvement of women in their aviation sector especially. And you're correct that not only girl will not attract with aviation. I have in Indonesia, even in the boys also at the moment, they are more attracted with entertainment, YouTuber or everything, not the aviation. So I think we need to have as mentioned by Mr. Singh, that we have to have promote this aviation sector, that we still need people to involve in the aviation sector, especially women. Thank you.
Thank you.
To add to that, I believe, so for the last 3 years, for the 325 plus employees who work for me, I have sponsored a unconscious bias training on an annual basis. Sometimes there could be intentional and unintentional biases. And because aviation, I think, has historically been a male-dominated industry, sometimes we don't realize that we are excluding as opposed to including people. And so by being willing to have an uncomfortable conversation to call out inequities and ensure that we can create an environment in which there could be equal footing for everyone, I think that is one step. So you have to be comfortable with the conversation.
I think we're hitting 1 o'clock, absolutely on time, 1.5 hours of fantastic interaction with all of you. Just one thing though, a request to Civil Aviation Chairman here. I think you should hold each one of us accountable for being in touch and making sure that we all fight the bias together. So if there are programs you come up with, we'll be welcoming it here. And let's just, commit to mentor and of course, perhaps a hashtag fight the bias. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity for speaking at you, rather. It wasn't very interactional, but we hope to get to know all of you better. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have witnessed an insightful session. May I request the moderator and panelists to be on the stage. Now requesting our Honorable Chairman, Civil Aviation Authority of Bangladesh will hand over a token of appreciation to the moderator and the panelists. Thank you so much, everyone, moderator and all the panelists out there. Ladies and gentlemen, now we shall go for lunch at Oasis beside swimming pool area. The organizers will guide you. We shall return in conference hall by 13:55. Our conference session will start at 14. I repeat, we shall return in conference hall by 13:55 and our conference will start at 14. Thank you so much for this session. Thank you, everyone.